The morning was bright, carrying a gentle breeze that swept through the narrow, bustling streets where Amaka's mother's house stood. The small compound was teeming with relatives and neighbors, all gathered to celebrate her marriage to Chike, a man everyone believed to be her dream come true. Standing at the heart of the celebration, Amaka couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with joy, the kind that almost feels like magic. She had waited so long to find a man who understood her, someone who would embrace the love and warmth she was so eager to give. Yet nestled in her joy was a faint, lingering worry, a whisper she could barely understand. Her mother had told her to listen to her heart, to trust her instincts. But that morning, her heart had been drowned out by the drums and cheers, and she didn't pause to question that small voice within. Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time watching, this is Folktales by Serafina. Please don't forget to like, share, comment below, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories like this. As Amaka walked down the aisles with Chike, she noticed his mother, Mama Chike, standing with a sharp, almost hawk-like gaze on her. Amaka had been introduced to her mother-in-law only briefly before the wedding, and in that time, the woman's silence and cold demeanor had unsettled her, but Amaka brushed it off, choosing to focus on the start of her new life. The honeymoon was short and simple. Chike was not one for many words, and although he occasionally showered her with charming compliments, Amaka began to feel a strange distance creeping between them. She thought it might be nerves, a man adjusting to marriage, and resolved to be patient and supportive. But things began to change after she moved into Chike's family house, a modest house with high walls and rooms that felt always on the verge of shadow. Mama Chike ruled the household like a queen in her castle, and she barely hid her disdain for her new daughter-in-law. The first morning, Amaka woke up early, wanting to make a good impression. She busied herself in the kitchen, preparing breakfast, humming softly to herself. But as she arranged the food on the table, Mama Chike walked in, eyeing her with a look that could pierce steel. "Who told you to touch my kitchen?" Mama Chike's voice was sharp, filled with an authority that made Amaka's hand tremble. I just wanted to help, Mama," Amaka replied, taken aback. "It's breakfast for everyone." Mama Chike laughed coldly, the sound void of warmth. "You think you are the lady of this house now. You are nothing but a visitor here. Don't you forget that." Amaka felt the sting of her words, but managed a small respectful nod. She whispered an apology and quickly stepped back, letting Mama Chike take over. Her heart felt heavy, but she reminded herself that it was only a small misunderstanding and things would soon improve. However, days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house only grew worse. Mama Chike criticized everything Amaka did, from her cooking to her housekeeping, and even her appearance. Her husband Chike, who had once shown her kindness, began to grow cold and distant. He spent his nights out late, leaving Amaka alone in the house with his mother's constant scorn. One evening, Chike returned home smelling of alcohol, his eyes glazed and his demeanor rougher than usual. Amaka tried to speak to him, hoping to bridge the growing gap between them. "Chike, is something wrong?" she asked, her voice soft and pleading. He turned to her with a sneer. "Are you questioning me now? Do you think you can control me because you are my wife?" he scoffed, pushing her aside as he stumbled into their room. The words left her stunned. She had only asked out of love, Yet his reply cut through her, and it was then she realized her marriage had begun to unravel. As months passed, Amaka's hope for a happy marriage faded. The abuse from her husband and mother-in-law was relentless, and she found herself caught in a web of isolation and sorrow. The only light in her life was her son, Kosi, a gentle boy with a wide smile and eyes that seemed to hold a world of love and wonder. Kosi was her solace, her reason to endure the harshness surrounding her. She would sit by his bed each night, singing lullabies and telling him stories of a world where kindness prevailed, a world that felt far removed from her own reality. But even this small joy was threatened when Kosi began to fall ill. At first, it was just a fever, but then his condition grew worse. His once bright eyes dulled, and he became weak, unable to play or laugh as he used to. Amaka was frantic. She begged Chike for help, pleaded with him to take their son to the hospital, but he dismissed her concern. "It is your fault he is sick," Mama Chike snapped one evening as Amaka sat by Kosi's side, pressing a cold cloth to his forehead. "Ever since you came into this family, nothing but misfortune has followed you. If my grandson suffers, it's because of your bad blood." Amaka felt tears break her eyes, but she fought them back. "Mama, please, he needs a doctor. He is just a child," she said, her voice breaking. But Mama Chike's heart seemed carved from stone. She refused to spare any money for Kosi's treatment and forbade Amaka from reaching out to anyone outside the family. Desperate, Amaka began selling her own belongings in secret, just to scrape together for basic medicine. Each night she prayed for strength, for a miracle that would save her son and break her free from the chains of misery that bound her. But as the days wore on, even her prayers felt hollow, lost in the cold silence of her darkened life. Just when all seemed lost, Amaka encountered Dr. Ngozi, a compassionate doctor who had heard of her struggles. Dr. Ngozi offered to treat Kosi. Her eyes filled with understanding as Amaka poured out her pain and fears. "You don't have to do this alone, Amaka," Dr. Ngozi whispered, her voice like a balm. "You have a right to protect your son and yourself. Don't let them break you." The words were like spark, igniting a strength Amaka had forgotten she possessed. She resolved to fight not just for Kosi's health, but for her freedom and dignity. In the days following her meeting with Dr. Ngozi, Amaka's resolve hardened. Her son's life was slipping through her fingers, and she knew that if she didn't act soon, she might lose him forever. With each quiet, fearful step she took, she resolved to bear the weight of any consequences that might come. Under Dr. Ngozi's discreet care, Kosi began to receive the treatment he desperately needed. But even with the help, his condition was precarious, and Amaka feared it might be too late. As she tended to her child each night, her heart ached with fear that he might never fully recover, that he might be taken from her. One night, as she sat by Kosi's bedside, Chike entered the room, clearly intoxicated. He staggered over, his face twisted in anger. "You dare to bring that doctor here behind my back? Are you trying to shame me? Do you think you are better than me, Amaka?" Amaka's hands tightened protectively around Kosi, her voice steady yet trembling. "Chike, our son is sick. I begged you to help, but you turned away. He needs care, and if you won't provide it, I have to." Her defiance enraged him. He lunged toward her, gripping her shoulders painfully. "Don't you ever speak to me like that again. Do you understand?" His voice was a low, threatening hiss. But this time, something within Amaka snapped. She refused to let fear control her, not when Kosi's life was at stake. She met Chike's gaze with a cold determination. If you want to be a father, then act like one. But don't you dare blame me for doing what you should have done from the start. Her voice was calm, though her heart was racing. For a moment, Chike looked taken aback, as though he couldn't recognize the woman standing before him. He let go of her shoulders, glaring at her before storming out of the room. Mama Chike, who had been listening from the hallway, entered, her face a mask of contempt. You have no respect, Amaka. No respect for your husband. No respect for this family. I warned Chike about marrying a woman like you, she spat. Amaka turned to her face, exhaustion in her eyes. You don't care about Kosi. You only care about your pride, your control. But I won't let that harm my son. Mama Chike's expression hardened, but Amaka's unwavering stance left her speechless. Amaka had never spoken back before, never challenged her authority, and for the first time Mama Chike faltered, momentarily silenced by the fear in Amaka's eyes. With each day that passed, Amaka grew stronger in her resolve. Dr. Ngozi became a close confidant, her guidance and support lending Amaka the courage she needed to break free from her chains. Slowly, Kosi's health improved. His cheeks regained color, and his laughter once again filled the quiet corners of their home. It was as though life had returned to Amaka, breathing hope and strength back into her weary soul. One afternoon, as Kosi played nearby, Dr. Ngozi approached Amaka with a warm smile. You have come so far, Amaka. You don't have to stay here. There are shelters and support groups that can help you rebuild your life. Amaka nodded, her heart swelling with a mixture of fear and hope. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but the thought of finally finding peace for herself and her son gave her the strength to move forward. As weeks passed, Amaka made arrangements to leave the household that had once seemed like a cage. She found a small, humble apartment with the help of Dr. Ngozi and a local charity organization, where she and Kosi could live safely. Her departure was not without struggle. Chike and Mama Chike hurled accusations and curses, trying to shame her into staying. But Amaka no longer feared their words. Her last day in the family home was one of bittersweet relief. With Kosi's hand in hers, Amaka stepped out of the house, feeling as though a weight had been lifted. She was leaving behind pain and darkness, stepping toward a future where she could finally find joy and freedom. In their new home, Amaka and Kosi built a life filled with love and laughter. The community welcomed them warmly, and Amaka found a job at a local school, where she became known for her kindness and resilience. She had learned to trust herself again, to find beauty and strength in her journey. Kosi's health continued to improve, and with each passing day, Amaka found herself healing. She no longer bore the scars of her past as wounds, but rather as reminders of her strength and the love she had for her son. One day, as she watched Kosi play in their small garden, Amaka felt a deep sense of peace settled over her heart. She had fought for her family, endured the storms, and emerged stronger than she had ever imagined. And in that moment, she knew that she and Kosi would be alright. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also leave a comment below, like and share. Make sure you turn on your post notification bell button to get a notification from us when next we post. See you next time on our next video. Bye.